Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
Getting concert tickets is harder than it used to be, and as a result, many Canadians have been shut out, even after hours of waiting online in a queue, hoping for a miracle. And that means many will turn to resellers, where sometimes the prices are so inflated, it's out of reach. What needs to happen to make this easier? Can it even be fixed? I'm Kris McCusker, and in this episode of The Big Story, I went looking for answers after years of missing out on shows. I'm looking at you, Taylor Swift. And I went directly to the source, Live Nation, which merged with Ticketmaster in 2010. Now, the company is a Delaware-based business. Its headquarters is in Beverly Hills, and Ticketmaster is a subsidiary. Dan Wall is Executive Vice President for Corporate and Regulatory Affairs at Live Nation, Inc. Thanks for agreeing to do this.
Glad to be here.
There has been talk in recent years that part of the problem for people getting concert tickets is that Ticketmaster has a monopoly. What do you say to that?
I think both the premise of that and the conclusion are wrong. First of all, let's understand that Ticketmaster is a ticketing company. It doesn't have any control at all over the supply of tickets. The supply of tickets is obviously set by the artists, depending on how many shows they want to play. They work out touring, and then they turn to ticketing companies simply to distribute the tickets. And we can only distribute the number of tickets that are provided to us, no more and no less. And we distribute them all. We don't hold any back. Contrary to popular belief, we don't secret some of them over to the resale markets or anything like that. We sell every ticket that we're asked to sell at the prices that we're asked to sell them for.
Can you understand why people would see it as a monopoly and, maybe that is why they're not able to get tickets at times, that, there is really only one option and it's kind of a crapshoot. You go into a queue and there's nothing you can do to improve your chances of getting tickets.
I fully understand it. I mean, I think that people naturally sort of jump to the conclusion that whoever they buy something from has control over it. I mean, that's typically what it is on a lot of stores and even online platforms. It just doesn't happen to work that way in the concert industry. In the concert industry, in North America, regardless of who the artist is, the tickets to their shows are going to be sold by whatever ticketing company has a relationship with the venue in which the show takes place, right? And venues pick one ticketing company. That's their preference. There's no need for two. They pick one ticketing company. So if a show is going to go to a particular venue, say in Toronto, we're just going to look at who's the existing ticketing company. And if it's Ticketmaster, we'll sell the tickets. And if it's SeatGeek or Access or Pacmillan or somebody else, they'll sell the tickets. And there'll only be one place to get them from.
Because it used to be, I'm old enough to remember that a concert would be announced and the Ticketmaster, I think it was Ticketmaster, had like a booth at the record store. And you would sleep outside the record store. If you really wanted tickets, some of the big shows, Duran Duran, Madonna, you would sleep outside of the record store because that would improve your chances at getting tickets. But nowadays, there's not much we can do. We're sort of, it's the popular shows are more problematic for obvious reasons because there's more demand, and I think most people understand that. But there's not much as a consumer you can do to improve your chances anymore.
Well, we first of all, I think, believe me, I'm probably the oldest person here, and I guarantee you that I, slept overnight and outside of Tower Records in San Francisco and tried to get tickets that way. It is so much easier now, and your chances are actually so much better because in those days, the record stores had very small allocations of tickets that they could sell, and if you stayed out all night and you happened to be the 150th person when they only had 125 tickets, you were out of luck. But but what we've done today through technology and for many years actually is we pool all the tickets together. And this is not just Ticketmaster, this is every ticket company. And we pool all the tickets together and we allow people to come online and to get into queues and to have a shot at the tickets. Now, the thing about it is, while it's true that there's not a lot of things that fans can do to improve their place in the queue, we in the back end are trying very hard to figure out who's a real fan, who isn't a bot, who isn't a broker, and get the tickets in the hands of the fans. It's not visible, but it's going on all the time.
It has also been suggested to me that in 2008, Ticketmaster bought a company called Tickets Now, based out of Chicago. And that was a ticket reseller or a broker. And that now when you see on the Ticketmaster website that a ticket is for sale by a verified reseller, that's basically Tickets Now / Ticketmaster in disguise. Is that true?
There is absolutely no part of that that's true. In fact, I find that allegation to be pretty bizarre. We don't sell resale tickets for our own account, nor do we sell resale tickets because artists want some of them to go directly on the resale market or anything like that. We have a resale business, but when you see that it's a verified reseller, that's because we verified that ticket. That's because unlike any of the other resale sites, we go to great lengths to try to make sure that the tickets that are reflected in those pink dots that you see are real tickets from fans, that we will be able to deliver a genuine ticket if you buy it from us, which is not something you are guaranteed of at all if you are on other resale sites. So I just really don't know where that person got that idea. It's completely wrong.
So the verified reseller, in other words, is like a guaranteed ticket.
Right. So what we do, our system is all set up to have security and in what we sometimes call good provenance for the ticket, right? So that we know that seller, to the maximum extent we can, because we're dealing with millions and millions of tickets, and you can never be perfect. But to the maximum extent we can, we want to make sure that's a person who has a ticket rightfully in their possession. And when there's a buyer, we are going to cancel the original ticket, issue a new ticket, which will be unique to that buyer and secure, and will absolutely positively get them in the show.
So Ticketmaster, just to be clear, Ticketmaster doesn't get a cut from that verified reseller, because very often those tickets are higher than the original price.
Well, there's fees on everything, right? I mean, we aren't sort of in cahoots with the seller, splitting what in the business we call the lift, right? The lift is the profit on resale. Well, we don't split the lift with anyone. Our fees are what they are, and they're transparent, and everybody knows that there are fees on ticket sales, but that's completely different.
You outlined at the beginning that it's the artist that picks the prices for tickets, and I mean that there's a lot of revenge concert that's going on right now, because for so long during the pandemic we couldn't go to concerts. So inflation and whatnot, and prices are higher than they used to be. So if prices are higher, then therefore the resale prices are higher too.
Well, resale prices are always higher. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about expensive tickets or inexpensive tickets. On average, the scalpers out there are going to double the price of the tickets. That's why the business exists and why this is such a problem, right? If there's just so much money to be made, there's not good numbers on this, but we estimate that the North American concert ticket resale market is over $10 billion a year. And that's just an extraordinary inducement for a lot of frankly, dishonest people to come in and try to steal tickets from real fans and put them up for double or the money or more and make a lot of profit.
And I mean, one could argue that if people are paying those prices, that's part of the problem too, right? Like if people are going to pay, then they're going to sell them at those prices.
That's true, but it's also very interesting because this is something that's unique to live entertainment. And it goes back centuries, actually, that artists hardly ever charge what the market will bear. Economists are befuddled by this. Why wouldn't you do that? Every seller is supposed to charge what the market will bear. But artists tend not to because they don't want to get reputations as gouging their fans. They want to be able to make particularly younger fans be able to afford the show so that they can have a long run with them. And this is with the best of intentions, right? But it creates the ideal conditions for scalping. And that's why it's become such a big problem. It used to be scalpers were a bunch of sort of shady characters hanging outside the concert hall with holding up 4 tickets, right? But when StubHub came along in 2000, it put an internet front end on them. And now it's a gigantic, scalable business where people who live nowhere near where the concert is going to take place and couldn't care less about the artist are buying up tickets and reselling them to take advantage of that very substantial difference between what the artist chooses to pay and what the market will bear.
That's an interesting backstory. Like, is there any possibility at, some point, or has Live Nation explored the possibility of somehow eliminating the option of a reseller?
So we think that should be an artist's choice, right? I mean, this is the artist's show. It's the ticket sales are sort of the distribution for the artist's product. And in other parts of commerce, we see merchants like people who make luxury purses decided that they're only going to sell through a select number of stores or maybe their own stores or something like that. And they'll take aggressive actions against resale. And we think that that we should let artists make those choices. We shouldn't have ticketing companies make those choices. It's really not Ticketmaster's role to decide any of this. But we think that artists should be empowered to do whatever they want to do with resale, because like there are bands like Pearl Jam is a great example. They hate resale. Chappell Roan, she hates resale, and they will go to great lengths to try to stop it. But they're swimming upstream here because there's very powerful economic forces, the ticket brokers and the resale sites that don't want them to succeed. We think they should be able to succeed and that we should empower them.
What do you think the solution is? I mean, there are fans out there listening. I've heard from people that there are, 4, 5, 6 concerts that they've missed out on. They've been sitting on the computer. They've tried to get tickets and they've been shut out numerous times. How do we fix this?
So we can only fix part of it. There, unfortunately, are limits to how many shows an artist can play. You look at someone like Taylor Swift, absolutely superhuman, unbelievable what she did. And yet there were still, millions of people who probably would have loved to seen her shows and couldn't, because that's the very top of the pyramid where supply is never going to keep up with demand. But what we can address is the disruptions in the system that are coming because of the scalping phenomena, right? We can address that. We could decide, like some countries have decided, just not to allow it, just to say there's not going to be any concert ticket scalping. We could put caps on it. We could empower the artists, as I mentioned before. That's the part of this that is addressable. And so I think we just need to focus on that and try to come up with some solutions.
Any idea how we go from here? Like, what's your advice to fans? Hang on?
What I would say to fans is please understand that we're trying to do everything we can to get the tickets to you instead of these interlopers. We really are. And the queues are there for that reason. While you're waiting in line, we're trying to figure out how many of the other people waiting in line are fake, are brokers, are bots, or something else. We're doing what we can. 95% of the time, you are going to get the tickets. For 5% of the shows, some of you aren't. And that's not a problem, unfortunately, that we can solve, because it's just that some people are way more popular than their ability to play. And that's never going to go away.
Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to outline this and help us with sort of some myth busting to the rumors that were out there.
It's my pleasure.
That's Dan Wall, Executive Vice President for Corporate and Regulatory Affairs at Live Nation, Inc. And one other note, earlier this month, a U.S. federal judge denied an attempt by Live Nation Entertainment to narrow an antitrust case filed by the U.S. Department of Justice under President Joe Biden. The case, which was filed last year, will now proceed under the Trump administration. And that wraps up this episode of The Big Story. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Kris McCusker. Thanks for listening.